I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.
I am too smart. I am too smart. I am too smart. I am too smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
What is so special about this egg roll?
Well, what's so special is this is the people's house. And we expect over 40,000 people to be here. It's the largest ever. And we just like to open it up to places, let people see this is their place.
Still have the choice, ultimate authority over what happens to her body.
But there's a child inside her body.
Hold on. What about meth?
Like, should she be allowed to do meth?
Yeah.
I think if someone is doing meth while they're pregnant, that it is completely acceptable for something like, I don't know what the name of the service is in the United States.
Child services?
I guess DCFS would be...
Oh, it's her body, though.
Yeah, it's her body.
If she wants to do meth, what's the big deal?
The big deal is that she's intentionally trying to kill a child.
Hold on there a minute.
Yeah, and I see where we're going.
I don't understand what you're saying.
What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that?
In Massachusetts, right now, those crisis pregnancy centers that are there to fool people who are looking for pregnancy termination help outnumber true abortion clinics by 3 to 1. We need to shut them down here in Massachusetts, and we need to shut them down all around the country. You should not be able to torture a pregnant person like that.
I'm sick of having my mental condition come into question.
How dare you, sir?
There was a time in America when contests of athletic prowess were a metaphor for the nobility of man. Historic moments forged by the love of the game celebrated the human potential to achieve excellence. But as time passed and the country neared the millennium, something went awry.
I'm gonna go with the charge.
Okay, tell me why.
Justin Herbert, Williams, Keith Allen.
Okay, all right. I guess we got time for one more.
That offense.
We'll dive in deeper here. Raiders, Chargers. Who are you backing to win this one, Stephen A?
I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Raiders. I'll just go with that.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
But if the forces of evil should rise again, to cast a shadow on the heart of the city, call.
Question. How do we call?
He gave us a signal.
This day, we rescue a world from mysticism and tyranny, and usher in a future brighter than anything we can imagine.
Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
I got something to say.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great.
Welcome to the show. You are one-on-one with Wes Sports Guy here on YouTube, eventually BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, Facebook, X. Get all those links at wessportsguy.com. We're going to show that for you real quick so you can get the spelling right. Or you can just click the link in the description too. I've got it down there as well. Bookmark that site if you want to get all of my social media links, podcast links, video links, baseball, football, hockey, basketball, Might not be much of hockey or basketball lately, but it's there for you if you want to see and read what I talk about on a semi-regular basis at westsportsguy.com. Sports. I know this video is not going to be sports related for the most part today, really at all, but that's because it is extremely important to discuss and make aware that, hey, if you live in America, if it hasn't been stressed already enough, your rights are in danger, if not have already been taken away. Now, we all kind of realize this in my generation with the passing of the Patriot Act not long after September 11th. And of course, that is what I would consider one of the worst pieces of legislation in American history, if not the worst. But that's a conversation for a different day. I'm not going to get into that. But in the sense of what I'm going to discuss today, that was a large reason to where we are today, in the sense of your God-given rights are being slowly, if not quickly, being eroded and taken away in this country. Other countries do not have what we have, and that should be looked at as a godsend and a very fortunate thing to be in this country. Now, if you were immigrating here the right way, I will say that you definitely understand what we have in this country. Even if you are crossing illegally, I assume you're coming here for the right reasons, but there are bad people that will take advantage of whatever system you make available to them. And that goes for anywhere in the world. But to get down to the nitty gritty, this bill, what is being called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act by the United States Congress, was passed by a very wide margin. A large majority of Congress decided to pass this bill. So as you can see on the screen here, it passed by a margin of 320. Let me get my eyes, since, as I said last week, I am going blind. This passed by a margin of 320 to 91, 92, I believe. Wait, there it is. Okay, yeah, 320 to 91. Now, some of the I should say this first. When it comes to politics, I learned a long time ago that the saying is absolutely true, that politics makes strange bedfellows. And there are some Congress people that I vehemently disagree with that said no to this bill. And there are those that I agree with more times than not that also said no to this bill. Not enough, obviously, only 91, but enough of them said no to this bill where it made some strange bedfellows. Which that tells you something right there. That tells you not all you need to know, but it tells you a lot. That you can get those on the complete opposite end of a political spectrum to agree on something that is absolutely 100% true, and that freedom of speech is a very important thing. It's in the First Amendment for a reason. So before I started looking into this bill, when it was being passed a few days ago, I thought to myself, I hadn't read the Constitution in a while. Now, I hope you have read the Constitution. It's readily available. It's not that long. It's only a page long, I believe. But I haven't read it in a while. And I think there was something there in the First Amendment that's kind of important that I believe most members of Congress don't understand. So I'm going to share what it says in the First Amendment so that we could all read it together before I go further with why this is an unnecessary bill to pass in the United States. So, as it says here in the First Amendment, Constitution of the United States, this is coming directly from a government website dedicated to the Constitution, so you can easily see it. Amendment by amendment, line by line, verse by verse, all that stuff. But it says here in the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Very key part is right at the beginning of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law following, respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Again, Congress shall make no law. So, why did they make a law that goes after every single one of those rights in the First Amendment? Every single one. I haven't gotten a straight answer from those that have voted for that bill, 320 of them. Nobody gave a straight answer. Now you might be asking yourself, why is it that this bill is getting such attention? Why do they feel the need to pass this bill? Well, to give you the brief background, I'm not going to get into this part of it, but the brief background is apparently a lot of college campuses, the ones that apparently feel so oppressed nowadays, decided to, again, if they were peaceably assembling, that's one thing. They have a right to do that. As long as they were peaceably assembling, which some did, they were voicing their frustration with the government of Israel, with what's going on in the Middle East since October 7th and those atrocities that the terrorist group Hamas committed against Israeli civilians on October 7th. And ever since then, hey, we got another problem in the Middle East. It's been like that for most of our lifetimes. So these college kids decided to voice their displeasure with the government of Israel. Now, again, some of them are college students, some of them are not college students, which, lo and behold, it's not a surprise that most of these are just outside agitators wanting to stir up some stuff and whatnot. So, not going to get into the whole nitty gritty of this, but my point remains that as long as they were peaceably assembling, they could say just about everything and anything. The one thing that you cannot do is call to action. Now, call to action basically means if you see somebody in, let's just say, the quad of whatever college campus, pick whichever one you saw videos of this last week or so. If a group that was peaceably assembling, but if a few agitators or whatnot in the group decided to point out somebody walking the quad, they didn't like whatever they were doing, if they were walking with an American flag, an Israeli flag, whatever. They didn't like it. The part where the First Amendment does not stipulate that, hey, you could do this, a call to action, meaning you see that person walking in that quad and say, hey, I don't like what they're doing, get them. That's not protected. That's a crime, because now you're calling for the group that you're currently with, which would be a mob tactic, to confront somebody. Now, what happens after that? Use your imagination. But lately it doesn't go well. So, as long as you were peaceably assembling, if you were not violating any kind of rule, law, whatever it may be, now I'm perfectly fine. You could say the most abhorrent things about a particular group, a particular country. You could say some horrible things, but it is your right to say. Freedom of speech affords you to say some horrible things. I do not have to agree with said horrible things. I do not agree with the horrible things that were being said. It is their right, and I will defend it. And why is it that we have been told you have to defend the things that you just will never agree with in any given day? You have to defend those things. Why are you told to do that? It's because this is the brilliance of the founding of this country and with the Bill of Rights. They knew eventually there would come a time that the government would become far too powerful, far too reaching to want to infringe on your rights. And if you give the government any kind of an opportunity to infringe on those rights for whatever reason, speech will take as this example that I'm talking about today. If you say to the government, hey, go ahead, you could shut down that discussion because we don't like what they're saying. And you, even if you give the government the stipulation, hey, but just don't go any further than that, what do you think will happen? You just gave the government an out. You just gave them an opening to do a lot more in the either immediate future, not too distant future, a couple generations from now. The door is open. But the brilliance that I say when I pointed out what is written in the First Amendment is that it stipulates that Congress shall make no law to restrict any of these rights in the First Amendment. That's the brilliance. If you want to make changes to any of the amendments of the United States Constitution, they have a way of doing that. It's called, you need to have a 2/3 majority of the states to approve a new amendment. So if you want to make hate speech laws, you need to make an amendment to the Constitution. You cannot make a law passed by Congress. It's not how this works. You're infringing upon people's rights. So that's the brilliance of this. It's not perfect. Not everything that they did, with all their flaws, almost 250 years ago, not everything they did was perfect. I think everybody can admit to that. It's not perfect. A lot of things needed some time to work out and correct. We all know what they are. And it's still not perfect as of right now, but there is something to be said about at that point in time to put something like that in the First Amendment for a specific reason. Keep the government away from your rights. That was brilliant on their part to put that in there. So the question begs to be asked of these 320 congressmen and women that said yes to this bill because, yeah, we want to protect people from hearing mean things on college campuses. You're doing all this for virtue signaling, for clicks on social media, for newfound, approval, whatever you want to call it. Get your dopamine fix, whatever it is. You violated your oath of office. You were sworn to defend and protect, uphold, I guess the right word, the United States Constitution. You just violated your oath. 320 of you. You just did that. Now, I should say, with this bill passing in the House, it still needs to go through the Senate. It's not anywhere near becoming what would be considered law, because then also you need the president to sign on this. And I don't want it to even get anywhere close to that, because this, again, this is opening that door. I'm thinking of the children's book. When you give a mouse a cookie, what happens when you give the government the key to your house? What happens when you give the government the ability to, spy on you, which they are doing to everybody right now? Congress is totally allowing this, like I mentioned earlier at the top with the Patriot Act, all those FISA warrants. It's not stopping. They won't stop. It's Pandora's box has been opened. It's going to be rough to get that back, if you get that back, which that's not to say that it's going to happen, but there are some things that you absolutely cannot allow them to have. And this is one of them. You cannot allow them some wiggle room to take away your rights like this, especially the First Amendment. Again, most of what was said on these college campuses, I vehemently disagree with. But I will defend their right to say it, because if I don't defend their right to say it, who's to say what I'm saying to you right now will also be restricted, or anything else I say going forward? Somebody can vehemently disagree with everything that I'm talking about right now. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. I can handle that. My generation, I thought, was fine with the saying of "sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." I thought my generation was okay with that saying. Like, hey, yeah, words, goes off my shoulder. I don't care. The generation after me, it's been waning. And unfortunately, it looks like the generation after that, it's just boom, it's totally upended. Words, every little thing is considered a microaggression. Every little thing is just falling on its face, completely upside down. Nope. We got to change everything. How we interact. Social media, of course, has played a large part in that. There are things that people are saying to one another on many sites that you would dare not say in front of a person, because you might have some consequences on the other end. Not endorsing it, but that's the generations we're seeing before our eyes on a lot of these college campuses. Now, with this bill that I did read, it's not one of those 400-page bills, thankfully, because I definitely wouldn't have read it. But this bill, as soon as I get it here, six pages long. Yeah, 6 pages long. And I'm not going to read it to you. You could certainly read it for yourself. It's available through Congress's website, their archives and everything. It's easily available to you, but I'm just going to kind of skim through it here a little bit to provide you as much transparency. So it says here, to provide for the consideration of a definition of anti Semitism set forth by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, the IHRA, that they're going to call further in the bill, for the enforcement of federal anti discrimination laws concerning education programs or activities and for other purposes. So it's being presented as, okay, this is only directed towards by the Department of Education. It's only saying to the Department of Education, hey, here's some things you need to look out for. Here's some things that you're going to use from the Civil Rights Act in 1964 to combat all this anti-Semitism that we're seeing on college campuses. That's the crux of this. That's what their defense is, to pass such a law to say, hey, this is only one little scope of society. This is on college campuses because we're seeing far too much of this anti-Semitism that's going on in these campuses. Goes on to say that the Civil Rights Act that prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, and programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance, which is just about every college in America receives federal financial assistance. While such title does not cover discrimination based solely on religion, individuals who face discrimination based on actual or perceived shared ancestry or ethnic characteristics do not lose protection under such title for also being members of a group that share a common religion. Okay, it's just a lot of word salad. It's reinforcing the Civil Rights Act. That's what the crux of this is. And to their findings, Congress finds the following: anti-Semitism is on the rise in the United States as it impacting Jewish students in K through 12 schools, colleges, and universities. I really do have sympathy for those that are hearing and seeing this right in front of their face on college campuses. I really do. I have sympathy for you. You should not be hearing these horrible things. I have my sympathy. Or you have my sympathy, rather. I'm not going to give up my First Amendment right so that you don't hear this on a college campus. I'm not going to give up my First Amendment rights so that you don't see this on a website or read about it on a website or newspaper if you happen to still read a newspaper nowadays. I'm not giving up my First Amendment right. I'm not. That is my God-given right. I was born with certain inalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All men are created equal. That's how it is. That's how it is. I don't see it any other way. Now here's that group again. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, referred to as the IHRA, working definition of anti-Semitism is a vital tool which helps individuals understand and identify the various manifestations of anti-Semitism. So the long and short of why the IHRA is being mentioned so much in this bill is that Congress is actually using this group that is not an American NGO. They call that a non-governmental organization. But I'm sure this organization does get funding from the United States federal government in some form or capacity. They're using this group that was started by a Swedish prime minister, I believe. So this group is based in Europe, has a lot of United Nations and European Union ties. So a non-American group is supposed to have a working definition. We're supposed to use their definition of what anti-Semitism is. How does that make any sense for America? To use a outside organization that has no ties to America and have them with and use their working definition of what anti-Semitism is to enforce the restriction of speech in this country. Only on college campuses, though. He goes on to say that because of an executive order in 2019, that was under Trump. Since 2018, also under Trump, since the Department of Education has used the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism when investigating violations of that Title 6. Yeah, VI, that's 6. Use of alternative definitions, enforcement by adding multiple standards, yada, yada, yada. So it's a lot of free-flowing. Hey, maybe this day we consider this anti-Semitism. Hey, maybe this day we'll consider that anti-Semitism. I did not partake in the what I believe at the time and now think more so than ever, the ludicrous back and forth of the term Christ is King. That was about a month ago, I believe. Yeah, that was going into Easter. There was a lot of back and forth about using Christ as King and whether or not that was anti Semitic. Well, the long and short of it is, I am not a huge theologian, big on religion. I, in fact, I'm still just a little bit into this. And I say a little bit, I'm over 50 pages into the Bible. This is what my Bible looks like. I'm in Exodus right now. And I say that I'm prefacing with that to say, with the whole Christ is King, I didn't see that as anti Semitic. You saying Christ is King is not anti Semitic. If you were to say something abhorrent and terrible about somebody that you're having a disagreement with that happens to be of a particular religion with a lot of history involved between Christians and Jewish people, if you happen to say something to somebody that happens to be Jewish that's absolutely horrible and abhorrent on social media, and then you end whatever horrible thing you just said with Christ is King, that doesn't put the emphasis on Christ is King as being anti Semitic. It means everything else you said before that was your hate filled sewage of that particular person. You saying Christ is King is just, you think that's some kind of a troll, some kind of an own. It's like, no, that it was ludicrous for people to even have that kind of a discussion about whether or not Christ is King is anti-Semitic. It's not. The stuff that's happening before saying something like that, or even after you say it, and then you say some abhorrent things. No, that is the problem. It's not saying Christ is King. Like that was just insane to me, seeing all of that was going on. And I took no part in it. I just said, nope, this is dumb. I'm out. I'm just going to move on with my days. What playoff game is on? What is football back yet? Like that's where I was at with that. I wanted no part of it. But seeing how there's working definitions and evolving meanings of what is and isn't anti-Semitic, you could see where this is going to go with a group like the IHRA. It says the definition of anti-Semitism adopted on May 26, 2016 by the IHRA, this group, which the U.S. is a member of, it's been adopted already by the Department of State and includes contemporary examples identified in its own definition. So you're telling me you're taking something that was done in 2016 by this group, and I'll show you this group's website here in a minute. They have a lot of examples of what they say is anti-Semitism, and I'm just like, that's not going to fly, man. That's not going to fly, especially when you're trying to restrict my freedom of speech. Not going to fly. You might not like it, and I would probably agree with you. It's not nice things to say. But again, sticks and stones, they break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Now, the one thing I will share here at the end that a lot of people that have been criticizing this bill did not point out, so which is why I'm reading it for myself and I'm reading it to you. They did throw this in here at the end of the bill. Now, this might seem like, oh, this isn't that bad. You're just overreacting. They're not going to really take away our First Amendment rights. Again, as I prefaced, when you give a mouse a cookie, he asks for a glass of milk. When you give the government your First Amendment rights, at least you open the door to it. What's been happening already and continues to happen? But this part here, general rule of construction. I love how they worded this. This is comical. Nothing in this act shall be construed to expand the authority of the Secretary of Education. What authority do they have to begin with? I would like to know. To alter the standards pursuant to which the Department of Education makes a determination that harassing conduct amounts to actionable discrimination, or to diminish or infringe upon the rights protected under any other provision of law that is in effect as of the date of enactment of this act. So, not to diminish or infringe upon the rights of any other provision or law. How about this? How about those that are defending this bill and the 320 Congress women and men, Congress people, whatever you want to describe them? How about if these colleges were so concerned and so butthurt about their own little Marxists and wannabe communists saying, they're anti-fascist, which is an oxymoron in and of itself because of their actions, how about enforce the laws that are already on the books in these places? Why do the feds think they need to pass something that's going to protect them more than they're already supposedly protected? There are laws already on the books. If they're trespassing, if they're causing damage, which they were doing in many areas, video evidence is all over the place. If they were disobeying lawful commands, again, it's just so many examples of they were breaking the law in some cases. Yes. Enforce the law that's already on the books. How hard is this? Why do you need to make this thing? This thing does nothing more than what's already on the books. It makes no freaking sense to me. But then again, when you think about it big picture, it's like, oh no, it makes perfect sense because they want the door to be opened. Not just a smidge or a crack. They want it to be wide open. And I love this part. This is the last sentence of this. Under constitutional protections, nothing in this act shall be construed to diminish or infringe upon any right protected under the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Oh, I'm supposed to take your word for it that nothing shall be construed to diminish or infringe upon any right protected under the First Amendment. Oh, that's something. Man, I am so happy they said that because, I don't have any other examples other than the Patriot Act, other than these FISA warrants, other than the FBI showing up to your home because, hey, you sent a tweet, not threatening anybody, mind you, just a tweet about something that, hey, we just wanted to talk to you about. No. And I don't even have to use recent examples. So, Woodrow Wilson, the progressive era in America, early 20th century. He interned German Americans during World War I. He's a championed president of his time by his own party and those that just love to talk about history and give him glowing reviews. He interned German Americans during World War I. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he interned Japanese Americans during World War II. We like to bring that up, but we don't mention the fact in a lot of those circles from his particular political party that FDR approved it. We have examples of this throughout our history. So I'm supposed to take their word that nothing shall be construed to diminish or infringe upon any right protected in the first. Bullcrap. Bullcrap. I do not trust you. You shouldn't either. So to take this even further, to think that what you're trying to, again, you're making a law that does not need to be a law, because there's already laws on the books that should be enforced and were being enforced on a lot of these college campuses when it got to that point that they were breaking the law. So you making this law, saying that you're going to protect a particular group of people, and you're also calling it the Anti-Semitism Act. Doesn't say it exactly here, but it does say it here on, yeah. Here, let me show you. Oh, learn as we go. Yeah, Congress's own website. They're calling the bill's HR 6090 Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023. So this thing's been waiting for a while. But you're calling it the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. So what's that going to do? What's that going to do to a particular group that you're supposedly protecting? And if they don't want this kind of protection, they know what this means. They know that this is going to infringe on everybody's First Amendment rights. What's this going to do? It's going to create more of what you're trying to stop. Lunacy, absolute lunacy. But is it by design? Most likely it is. It's most likely by design. This is what the political ruling class wants. It's the necessary destruction of Western society. And this is opening a door that I do not want opened ever. Ever. I don't want it for these current generations that are even protesting stuff they don't know. They don't know a damn thing of what they're protesting about. They have no clue. I want what's best for you, and I want your rights to be protected. I want my nieces and nephews' rights to be protected when they're adults. And this ain't going to help anybody. Current, future, it's going to go to hell in a handbasket a lot quicker than you think. If this continues, that door is open and it needs to be shut immediately. But what according to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, this is from their own website, working definition of anti-Semitism. And it starts, in the spirit of the Stockholm Declaration that states, again, this is a group that started by a former prime minister of Sweden, not even an American group. That this is what they started with the anti-Semitism definition in 2016 that the bill references. It's a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred towards them, rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism or direct toward or non-individuals and their property. It's so much open-ended, just any kind of interpretation you can think of. It's going to be like a reference with Christ is King. It's gonna say that's anti-Semitic. And you had folks that are aligned with our values and even political beliefs to a degree, saying that, hey, if you just saying Christ is King, is that, no, it's not. What was said before that? Just, oh man, we're quickly coming to a point where we're going to have to choose sides, and it's not going to be pretty. Not going to be pretty at all. So as you can see, here are their open-ended examples calling for aiding or justifying the killing or harming of said people in the name of a radical ideology and extremist view of religion. Okay, like I said, a call to action. So if you happen to see somebody like I gave earlier walking around and you say, "Get them," not protected. Okay, no, that's not protected under anybody's right. It's like, no, the laws that are in place without this one protect you from having that happen to you. But just in case, there is a Second Amendment, by the way. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, and stereotypical allegations about them, such as the power that they have, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world conspiracy, them controlling the media, economy. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it, but that's also protected speech in America. I don't agree with it. Again, 99% of the stuff that was being said, I don't agree with it at all. Because the lack of self-awareness from these, and please stop calling them protesters because they're not. Most of them are not. They're just agitators. But the ones that were there to start trouble, if you were even trying to ask them basic questions about, hey, well, what about October 6th, or not October 6th, October 7th? What about that day? Like, don't they have a right to defend their own citizens? It's just like, nope, just completely stone faced, nope. Or they'll flat out say that's a lie. It's like, okay, we're done with you. We're done with you. And it goes on here to say, denying the Holocaust was a thing and saying it was a car. Like, no, we're beyond this point now where if you're not going to face facts, if you're not going to actually seek the truth, accept it for what it is, the truth, then we're done. There's no more engagement here. And here, it's just, I'm shaking my head just skimming through this stuff because I already looked at it the other day and just here accusing their citizens of being more loyal to their country or to the alleged priorities than the interests of their own nation. So again, it's free speech in this country. If you say something about a particular personality, just say it, Ben Shapiro. If you say that about Ben Shapiro, that's your right to say that. That if you believe your opinion that he has more loyalty to the country of Israel than he does to America, that is completely your right to say that. It's your opinion. Nobody has to agree with your opinion, and nobody has to try to shut you up for saying that opinion. It's your right to say. So that's what this is here. Like, are you kidding me? No. It's free speech here. And I've never agreed with this. You denying their right to self-determination by claiming that it's, racist endeavor that they exist. Basically, you want them wiped off the map. You don't want them I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. No, they have a right to exist. They do. And it's like even comparing Israeli policy to the bad guys from WW2, it's a weird opinion to have, but it's your right to have if that's your opinion. Again, as long as you're not doing a call to action where it's the mob mentality that you can say the worst things possible. I am not agreeing with it. It is your right to say. And this was definitely the one that got a lot of people's heads churning, saying classic anti-Semitism. Now, of course, they're using a lot of historical things when it came to the Christian religion and the history involved with that. I'm not going to get into it here with what I do know. Not going to get into it, but this is just no. Now, like I said, First Amendment, Congress shall make no law. It's all encompassing in the First Amendment. It's speech, religion, to practice as well. Your freedom of the press, your right to peaceably assemble, and to come to the government with your redress of grievances. It's all there. First Amendment. Sorry. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words were never. Say that 5 times fast. Words will never hurt me. This is a no. This is a big time no for me. And I also, as I'm seeing this, these acts are criminal as so defined by law. Yes, because any crime committed should have another emphasis on it to be a hate crime. I mean, crimes are committed in hate. That's how it is. Crimes are hateful acts. In and of themselves, they are already hateful acts. Now we got to differentiate what is and isn't a particular hateful crime. Okay. We're getting close. Again, pick a side. This bill is on its way to the Senate. I just checked through a couple senators' Twitter feeds that I somewhat respect, and they're focused on some other things right now, so I don't know how soon this is going to be up for debate in the Senate. Since I know, hey, it's May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, by the way. I only have a glass of water here if I do take a sip. I do thank you for tuning in, though. But what I was getting to with Congress is that, hey, they're going to have another summer recess coming up pretty soon. If not next week, it'll be the week after, before Memorial Day probably, or going into Memorial Day. That'll be their summer break, whatever. So it's coming. They're going to take a recess, and they might not even talk about this until later in the fall. Does that mean that they still won't potentially pass this down the road? You got to get in contact with your senators. There's 2 in every state. You got to get in contact with them. Make them know. However you want to do it. If you want to handwrite a letter, if you want to call them, you want to tweet at them, you want to get them on Facebook, whatever your means of communication is, do it. Decide which side of it are going to be on. Because this shall not pass, to quote Gandalf, this shall not pass. But another place that you could see a very good summary is Matt Walsh's tweet here. I'm not going to play it, but it's a little under 14 minutes here. When this bill was being passed, saying why the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act is one of the worst pieces of legislation ever conceived. I agree. It's right up there. It's right up there with the Patriot Act, and Operation Warp Speed is another one. That might surprise you to think, wait, Operation Warp Speed, that was under... I don't want to get into politics on this channel a lot, but suffice it to say, they're all pretty bad. I don't trust most of them. It's a slimy world. I just don't want to be a part of it. But if you want to get a good summary of why this is just awful, I thought Matt Walsh did a good job summarizing this as well. You can check his out. When it comes to the tongue-in-cheek sarcasm here. You should follow, if you are on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Jesse Kelly's a good follow. People are overblowing the danger of the anti-Semitism bill. Not every law is something the government will use to abuse you at some point later on. Some laws are just great laws and they'll never be abused. After all, just look at the Civil Rights Act. So him saying that piqued my interest because I knew what he was doing. A lot of sarcasm in there, but I knew what he was doing. I was like, yeah, no. He's got it on, he's got the nail on the head there. Using the Civil Rights Act to basically open the door to take away your First Amendment rights. Okay. I see how it is. And the last tweet I feel is relevant to share. I do not give a rip about this Nick Fuentes. I do not. I kind of know what his shtick is or whatever you want to. I don't care about the guy. As long as he's not doing a call to action, he has the right to say some of the dumbest, horrible things that he's been saying. But as Jeremy from the Quartering pointed out here with the community notes, which is one of the best things, if not the only really great thing that's come out of Elon buying Twitter. Changing it to X is not a great thing, but the community notes, just chef's kiss. Love it. Just getting the ADL right where it matters. With now, if you don't know what the ADL is, it's the Anti-Defamation League. This is what I would classify as a non-governmental organization, meaning they get plenty of funding from the government. So if this bill, the Anti-Semitism Act, HR 6090, were to actually be law, I would first and foremost consider it an unjust law because Congress, you're not supposed to make any law that restricts my First Amendment rights whatsoever. But secondly, could you imagine this regime, or really any regime, but especially this one? You don't think they would use the Anti-Defamation League to go after anybody and everybody that they disagree with vehemently and will say whatever it is that they're talking about in that particular time and call it anti-Semitic? You got to be kidding if you don't think that'll happen. They absolutely will. The Anti-Defamation League has a sordid history of going after people for just dumb, uninformed, and just ludicrous reasons, claiming anti-Semitism. Like, no. But this community note was perfect for this time. Them saying, we are concerned that this white supremacist influencer Nick Fuentes may be officially welcomed back on X, which he already has. While the ADL recognizes the right to free speech, we must also sound the alarm on hate and anti-Semitism in all its forms. Learn more about him here. Okay, I'm supposed to take your word for that. But the community note comes in and says, the ADL recently supported a bill that would utilize the U.S. Department of Education to restrict anti-Semitic speech, showing they, in fact, do not recognize the right to free speech. You got to love community notes if you are on Twitter or X. But if you're not, you are lucky. Because fantastic. It's hilarious. I love the memes when they get rolling on that site. But wow, you gotta step back a lot of times. But I appreciate it if you are following me there. You can get the link at westsportsguy.com. I had that up longer than I needed to earlier, but I'll show it again. westsportsguy.com. Bookmark that site. Get all my social media links, video sites. Subscribe. Hit that bell as well down below if you want to get notified when all the latest videos are posted on this channel. Whether it be at YouTube, Facebook, X for the live show as well. I thank you for sticking around with me and letting me rant and rave here on a Sunday. When culture lets go of the rope, it goes fast. I hope you understand what's at stake here if you live in the United States and appreciate your God-given rights, because, man, it's not looking good right now. But get in touch with your senators however you can, how often as you can. Get in touch with them. Make sure this does not see the light of day. This cannot go further. So thank you again for tuning in. Look more at WesternSportsGuy.com. Subscribe, hit that bell, get notified, all that good stuff. Or you can see the links in the description of this video as well. Thanks, and I will see you live next time.